Liberator opening.
I mean,
Well,
not
that
very.
probe is definitely heading towards a Stargate location. It could also just be a very quick Oracle trying to deal some economic damage and play macro behind it. I feel like normally if we proxy Void Ray, we do it on the low ground, but maybe he just wants to do it on the high ground and then build another pylon on the low ground, and that's where he will start building batteries. No matter how you spin it, man, I think we are going full NA in this one.
I think so. And MaSa, he's like, you know what?
Uh-oh.
You haven't. He scouts the base and he's like, I'm not going to go for a CC on the low ground, which I think is obviously the correct move in this situation. Keeps on building Marines, and I think he'll spot this Stargate, unless this SV just has a heart attack right now, but no, we'll spot it.
Really early, actually. It's a proper early scout, but this target is so far away that you might ask yourself, like, should he pull SCVs? No. He could definitely send out a Marine and try to get lucky. Killing a probe is already so nice, and he is going to get that first probe kill. And now they can actually get the bunker up. Now, Astrea did make a Zealot and an Adept. The Zealot is going to run into the main base of the Terran. This is definitely not looking all that hot for Astrea at this point. I think he's going to have a super hard time getting anything out of this Stargate, Ben.
I actually think so too, Kev. And he supply blocks.
Oh my god.
What? Oh my god. What is happening?
And he's going to lose his pylon too, so he's not just going to be supply blocked once, he's going to be supply blocked twice. So it's like, God, you never wanted it anyway, man. Just going to expand. Joke's on you. No, you can't get into the main base. Another bunker. The Marines are obviously inside of that bunker. And a Zealot and a Adept definitely have potential to deal some economic damage. We may not understand it, but we will appreciate it. You know, this is still going to turn into a good opening for Astrea. That entire Stargate was a fake.
This is great. I love it. I love that he got a tech lab on the factory too, and then he's like, you know what, I'm going to get a Hellion out of it, not a Cyclone. This is just, I love it. I love it. Now, obviously, getting the Hellion, it builds a lot faster, and it will deal damage to these light units and stuff.
Oh, just so many SCVs are low on HP. A couple of them one shot, one more low HP, one in the refinery. Astrea did try to get it, did not quite get it. Now, MaSa may have double orbital, but he is down 12 workers. The only thing that's a bit awkward for Astrea is that obviously the Twilight tech is going to be a bit late, but this was one hell of a save of a proxy Stargate, man.
So I think you're onto something here, Kev, because what's his setup? He's up to 2 barracks here, 1 factory, 1 starport. He's obviously getting Banshees as well with Cloak, which is pretty damn unusual. It's not like the most common opening, and he is going for a move out here. It's all very unusual.
It's very tiny. The move out is very tiny. And Blink is done, and that means that this Cyclone is really not going to be very impactful. Astrea blinks forward, and he's like, alright, it's not just a Cyclone, it's a couple of Marines too. But how much more is there really to it? The answer is not that much. Astrea is going to have a field day one-shotting these Marines. Does lose another Stalker, so it's not the cleanest of cleanups so far, but if he gets the tank here too, you're still going to be very happy with all of this. If your name is Astrea. I'm going to take a look at where that Banshee is at. Oh, Banshee's in the main base. That has a lot of potential. No shield battery. And there is one observer on the map, but the observer's on the other side of the map. This Banshee could get so many kills, but you don't want to lose it before Cloak is ready. Oh, wow. It's still a good Banshee, but could have been better.
It could have been way better, right? Like, I know there's another observer popping out now, but oh no. Yeah. This is the most glorious 3-stalker hit squad of all time.
Now we're all tied up in workers, and Astrea is still on 2 bases. So that's normally not a scenario that you're incredibly in love with as a Protoss. But even though MaSa connected that barracks to the tech lab a long time ago, you remember when he did a little swap rule with the factory? Never started any of the upgrades, and now he starts combat shield. But that also means he won't have stim until like minute 9 in this game.
Super weird. So he's actually going up to not like 5 or 3 barracks, he's going up to 4, which is a very special number, Kev, because this is kind of like a very in-between, and Astrea looks like he's having none of this game so far.
Drops a couple of force fields, does still have this one observer on this side of the map, and that means that the last Cloak Banshee is going to be in a bit of trouble too. A lot of these SCVs are zoned away from these Marines. And these Marines, they won't have stim for a long time. We do have another tank on the high ground, and that could absolutely keep MaSa safe, at least a little bit there. He's going to be forced to move it forward. Will Astrea go for it? The answer is no. Doesn't quite have the right amount of units. Good job keeping that Banshee alive, by the way. It's super low on HP.
Yeah, I'm questioning what MaSa, like, the combat shields first over the stim. It's such a weird choice considering everything else in this game. Now he's actually making a 5th barracks, one of them on the tech lab that he had there as well. I think it was just I think it was an error of judgment. I can't see him doing that purposefully.
Stalkers do blink into the main base and they get the Banshee. I think I'm with you too. I think when he moved out, he expected to, or he probably thought he started Stim, but then he was forced to micro because he ran into those Stalkers with his Cyclone, and then maybe he just completely forgot about it. Astrea has now created a very sweet 17 worker advantage and is throwing down 5 extra gates and getting Storm at the same time. It is safe to say that the world is his oyster, but this is also another replay that I would put in my replay pack, where I'm like, how to dismantle a Terran.
I do like the choice of Storm, though, this game, because very often I see players being like, oh, it's tanks? Yeah, I'll go into Colossus. And it's like, that's the one thing that Terran kind of want you to do when they go tanks, or like, you know, big Stalker compositions and stuff. But the one thing that really owns this comp, well, High Templar, Charge Lots, Archons, it's all the kind of stuff you don't want to go. So Astrea making the correct call here on his army comp, I think.
The most annoying thing is that Stim is still not done. And it's going to take a little while before it actually is ready. And that means that killing this Prism is almost impossible. MaSa is making his way to the other side of the map. It's not the biggest army I've ever seen for an almost 10-minute game. We do have a couple of tanks there. But I really think that if Astrea just warps in 5 more Zealots with charge, he could A-move this. A good Storm or 2 will definitely help. I mean, Ben, bunkers going up on the other side of the map is definitely your territory. Let's feel that.
What are you bringing me into this for? I mean, this game is a me game, honestly. This reminds me of me versus Bling, but Astrea is going for it. The Stalkers kind of block everything else on that side, but the High Templars, the Storms are pretty damn decent. In fact, there's like 5 Storms on the same spot, and MaSa, well, his supply just got halved, Kevin.
It vanished. The bunkers did not go up. We did queue up a Liberator, but Astrea is just a little bit too far ahead. The first Zealot and the first 2 Adepts honestly put Astrea in an amazing spot.
Oh, okay,
Whoa.
there you go, Kevin. There you go. There you go. Hey, get in the back. Shut your mouth. Look, it's a proxy factory going down over here.
Yep, and it's the second. It's not just the first factory. There's a factory at home, and this is the second factory. Now, it always reminds me of the game that, or the strategy that Juanito used once upon a time, where you just show up with like 5 siege tanks, right? It's actually proper powerful. Now, of course, it could be for a bunch of Cyclones too, but I would love to see that second factory being used for proxy siege tank. Special had a build like this. And he actually used it on Backwater, I think. Now, this is really good scouting by Astrea. But at this point, once you scout this, right? What is even the correct response? Because I really don't know.
I think the Immortal's a great move. Like, I think it's a super damn great move. And maybe a couple of shield batteries at the front. How many does he have? He's actually making 1 and a very forward pylon with it, which is a bit unusual, but... We'll see, because Blink isn't done yet. I think Astrea so far looks pretty solid against it, and just he's slowing it down a lot, right?
Yeah. That is the most important thing. You don't just want to sit at home and receive this and let the tank siege up in the range of your battery. You want to buy some time. I would love to see a second Immortal immediately, because I do agree that the Immortal is a great call. It's very nice to have on this early on. MaSa throws down a scan, and he's obviously not happy to see Big Daddy Immortal. Immortal is actually kind of indecisive here whether or not it wants to commit, but 1 tank did get picked off. But we can't lose all the units to kill 1 tank, Ben, because it's double factory, and that means that the tank count will get up.
Absolutely. I think Astrea kind of misjudged the situation a little bit. I want to see another battery or 2, Kev, because the juice is gone entirely. Oh, okay, super battery, that's good, but that's a ballsy Blink. That second Immortal, or rather the first Immortal, is running in. I think this is shut down pretty hardcore.
This was actually very well done by Astrea. He made this look easy. While it's honestly easy to panic against this and may not necessarily have the optimal response, I actually think he handled this really well. Now the factory is going away. That bunker is still being completed, by the way, so there is at least a bunker going up on the high ground. Well done by Astrea.
That bunker's what I was giggling about, and yeah, he does salvage it now. Has to be careful, though. Like, you know, just because he held this off doesn't mean he can just run across the map and kill him. But I like everything else that he's doing, because he's got this Immortal now. The Stalkers are joining up, getting a 3rd base as well. He's just being safe and solid here. Oh, I say that, and he jumps in like a madman.
Yeah, but he does get 2 tanks, and the other tank is obviously in a very awkward spot. Now it may actually stay alive because the SCVs are going to push these Protoss units towards the top side. And actually that Immortal does fall too. Astrea misblinks there, but the Stalker will stay alive. Another Immortal being rallied up this ramp. It just really wants to kill that tank. And with a bit of help from the Blink Stalker, it will kill the tank. 2 more Stalkers coming in from the high ground. There are no tanks out on the map, by the way.
I mean, that's when you know you're not in the best situation, when your main production is 2 factory tanks. You haven't got 1 tank out. Oh my god, that Immortal.
6 safe.
Wait, is the flank tank flank gonna happen though? I mean, guess not.
You mean this tank that's gonna rally? But by the time that this tank is out, the Immortal will have its barrier again. And Astrea doesn't need to be super aggressive, but then you look at the army of MaSa, and he's got 2 tanks, but 1 tank actually getting... Astrea has no idea. Astrea did see it. Now he finds that second factory too, even though he already found it once. But he finds it twice in the same game.
That factory, I mean, factories on Romanticide, Kevin, they've been getting spotted here, and then the Max Backs versus Marine Lord game. Those chunky boys.
Was that a factory tour or was it... Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In the north.
I was thinking of the Clem series, Clem against Max Packs. I was like, that was a starport, but no, that was indeed a factory in that earlier PvT. We've seen quite a few PvTs today. A couple of Marines are going to fight the Stalkers as this War Prism will die with 1 Zealot inside of it. MaSa picks off 1 or 2 Stalkers, but loses 7 or 8 Marines in the process. Astrea's like, whoa, that's a lot of tanks. MaSa's got a really good TVT army.
Yeah, and look at that production tab. That's a TVT production tab if I've ever seen one. This is really weird. I remember for a while, Terrans thought mass tank was the way. Oh, I mean, that is a ton of tanks, though. Astrea actually has to be careful with his army, right? Right?
Yes, he does. This army of Astrea is not big enough to win, but maybe with the extra Zealot coming in from the top, even though there are still a couple of Marines going strong. Yeah, that was an ugly fight if I've ever seen an ugly fight. It's also a little bit unnecessary to fight up the ramp when you're at 6 bases versus a 3-base Terran. Astrea probably thinking like, well, I'm 4 enough ahead to justify this. And in a way he is, but he can't do that again because he is down 40 army supply now. And the Zealot count is actually really not that high. And Archons are not that great against 8 tanks because they could very well pop like balloons before they even get in range.
Kevin, I actually think MaSa kind of has a chance here, man. Like, he actually has a chance. And, I mean, these Zealots are absolutely going to have to put in a lot of work here. They are putting in a lot of work, though, and MaSa having to retreat, but these tanks are his power. Wait, Astrea really derped there with a lot of his Zealots.
Yeah, a lot of the tanks did get picked off, though, and don't forget that Astrea has reinforcements 4 days, and I felt that those extra Marines of MaSa just showed up a split second too late. Let's not forget about the upgrades. Astrea has 2 upgrades ahead. These were some absolute silly fights. I can't really put it any other way. MaSa is going to try 1 more time, but it's safe to say that he was the one-punch man in this game. If those extra Marines, man, would have been there a few seconds earlier, and he would have been able to reduce the Zealot count 1 more time, then I absolutely believed. But now I think we have missed our window.
Yeah, so sadly, Kevin.
Yeah, because this would have been another absolutely outrageous victory. I love that MaSa is dropping a command center now. Like, this is the kind of game where it's like, maybe you can just take another base. I guess he really has no idea that Astrea doesn't just have 4 bases, but it's actually up to 6, going up to 7, and it's just very, very rich.
Yeah, I mean, Astrea, like, he's dominating this game. Like, not necessarily through taking good fights, but the economic game. 94 probes to 61 SCVs. MaSa, he's holding on, because if he loses this map, he is out, unfortunately for him. But he's had more than a great run this tournament, honestly.
Yep. This is a beautiful engagement from Astrea as he's coming in from multiple angles. This time the Zealot will... Oh no, MaSa's shooting at the rocks. I don't think it really would have made the difference, but Marines and tanks shooting at the rocks are absolutely not going to help when you've got a ton of Zealots coming in from the top and bottom at the same time. GG. Astrea wins.